Have you noticed something interesting about certain people? They don't explain themselves, even when others clearly expect them to. They don't rush to justify decisions, they don't correct every misunderstanding. And somehow, they stay calm. That calm can feel confusing, sometimes even uncomfortable. In daily life, we are taught that explaining is polite. We are told that clarity prevents conflict, that being understood is important. So when someone chooses not to explain, our mind fills the gap on its own. We assume insecurity or arrogance or emotional distance. But psychology suggests a very different reason. Confidence does not always sound loud. Often, it sounds quiet. When someone feels secure in how they think, they don't experience disagreement as a threat. Their nervous system stays steady, their identity does not feel under review. Because of that, explaining stops feeling urgent. A lot of explaining comes from uncertainty. When people doubt their own decisions, they look outward for confirmation. They explain to reduce anxiety, they explain to regain control, they explain to feel safe. Confident people work differently. They rely on an internal reference point, they have already evaluated their choices privately. So when questioned, their mind does not rush to defend. Silence, in this case, is not avoidance, it is resolution. Think about a workplace situation. A decision is made during a meeting, some people disagree, the room becomes tense. One person starts explaining, long justifications, repeated defenses. Another person stays quiet. They listen, they respond briefly or not at all. Later, something becomes clear. The calm person does not lose authority, they gain it. Not because silence is powerful by itself, but because it signals self-trust. They do not need approval to feel certain about their choice. There is also an energy factor most people miss. Explaining yourself costs mental effort, it requires attention, it requires emotional control. Confident people are selective. They choose where their energy goes. They do not engage in conversations that will not change outcomes. They understand the difference between clarity and constant clarification. Over-explaining can send an unintended signal. It can suggest that approval is needed. That agreement is required for confidence. People who explain less allow their actions to speak first. They let time, consistency, and results create meaning. This does not make them superior. It makes them grounded. This does not mean confident people never explain. They do. When clarity truly helps. When confusion creates friction. When communication serves a purpose. The difference is intent. They explain to inform, not to reassure themselves. So when you meet someone who does not explain themselves, it is not always ego. It is not always indifference. Often, the decision was already made internally. Silence, in those moments, is not empty. It is certainty. And once you understand that, you begin to see quiet behavior very differently. Why does silence make people uncomfortable? Because the human brain wants closure. When information is missing, the mind does not stay neutral. It fills the gap on its own. Silence creates uncertainty, and uncertainty feels unsafe to many people. That discomfort is not really about the other person. It comes from inside. People project meaning onto silence because they do not like unanswered space. Why do some people feel the need to explain everything? Because explanation is often used to calm anxiety. When someone is unsure about a decision, they talk to stabilize the situation. They are not always trying to be understood. They are trying to feel secure. In those moments, explaining is not communication. It is emotional regulation. What changes when someone stops explaining themselves? The source of validation shifts inward. Decisions no longer depend on agreement. Confidence no longer needs confirmation. Silence becomes a choice, not a reaction. And behavior starts to feel grounded instead of defensive. Think about this for a moment. The last time you explained something that did not really need explanation, what were you trying to protect? Your idea, or your sense of certainty? That answer reveals more than the explanation ever could.